So I watched a 6, 7 year old movie now, even though it doesn't seem to be that long, but never mind. Very unfortunate movie that had potential possibly, but totally squandered. And this movie is really here just to tell me. It's very funny. Yesterday I was just thinking I like parodies. I couldn't possibly not like a parody, right? As long as it's a parody. Yeah, yeah. Not if Seth MacFarlane exists, clearly. Like, I'm actually not sure what he does when it comes to animation. I mean, I know I've seen just a slight bit of Family Guy, but not exactly a lot. When it comes to animation, though, this is the thing. It sort of masks it. I don't know. Like, even if there is bad script writing, bad plot generally, bad jokes even, the animation sort of makes up for it. Even South Park, it's bad animation. It, I don't know. It sort of blends in to the comedy, I suppose. It's not like it's trying to be realistic or anything, but so even when there's this obviously doesn't have the same thing. I mean, you know, just people, but I don't know. I mean, generally, though, I mean, even if it's animated, though, honestly, um, if that is all he does when it comes to humor, I've seen Ted years ago though, so I also don't know if there is this kind of humor, this kind of really bad humor, um, but somehow I remember liking it. So I thought I would like this because it's the same person. It's not just because it's set in a western, I mean, sure enough, I do not normally like westerns, non-comedy westerns. I actually haven't seen many. I don't remember any other comedy westerns that I've watched actually. So not quite a good first impression, if this is indeed my first. Anyway, it was just bad. The jokes are just so bad, so idiotic, so brainless. And then the biggest ever, well, probably not biggest. I mean, second maybe big. Just it's it's awful how this stuff happens though. Like, okay, so in my review for the other parody, that time, parodying um period dramas, what was it called again? Yeah. Um, Somehow I forgot the name. It's yeah, I mean, the jokes were better, so in the sense, it was just better. Stiff upper lips, yeah. Um, the jokes were better, but no, the point is, not only was the humor better, of course, humor is subjective. I give it that. But I mean, how many people are there in the world, honestly, who think that somebody who just has how many people in the world are there who honestly like scatological humor? I have no idea. Just it's the most idiotic thing ever. It's not even humor. What nonsense is this? And the extended things, like seriously, I just can't believe how awful it was. Now it did have some interesting scenes, but very, very few, and the rest ruins them. Just ruins it. That's a problem, you know. If only they removed, as usual, there's always something. As I said, even with rom-coms, you rom-coms tend to have the same problem. I mean, some, as mentioned in the past, somehow seem to think that someone vomiting is funny. Absolutely not funny. Um, so this is slightly different, but Uh, yeah, it's idiotic how these things are. Some people seem to think honestly that disgust they could translate into either comedy or, in the case of horror movies, horror. It really doesn't either of those. You know, and the other problem with rom-coms that this also has somehow I didn't expect it to have. This is not. It's not even doesn't. I mean, maybe someone just forgot the romance genre, or possibly yes, just not romantic, just not romantic. Yeah, this is just so weird. Like it's not on average, it's not rated highly, and yet it got more than double its budget. It's really bizarre. Um, although saying that, I think it is actually a bit too high an average rating for what it is, but it's still mediocre. I just don't know how these things still make such stiff upper lips is actually relatively unknown in comparison to this. Of course, this guy did a long-running animated series, so of course people will know this more. But seriously, it's just unbelievable. If you just released Ted, but it'd be I'm sure it's better. I last watched it like I think about 5 years ago or so. But a talking teddy bear, yeah, I'm sure it's better. This was absolutely absurdly idiotic, and yeah, as I said, that there are just a few things that weren't idiotic or disgusting. Just a few. Sure enough, primarily the trip scene at the end. But this is the problem, right? I mean, it's such a long-running film, and indeed, the critics criticized it for its long-running time, and yeah, very long-running. The problem isn't so much that it's long-running. So, there could be, Lord of the Rings is long-running, and it's a good trilogy, And well, the problem is, all this nonsense, piece of ice just killing someone, and somehow that's supposed to be funny. I don't know. So many idiotic bits, that totally destroy. And yet, the trip scene at the end, so surreal, brilliant. It's utterly wasted. Though. It's like just trying to um I don't know decorate a landfill site or something. That's pretty much it, really. And somehow they got Patrick Stewart to voice a sheep. Like really, uh, it's totally wasted. Many of the cameos are wasted. Actually, I have no idea. Did they even know what the end product was going to be? Seriously, did they think like oh yeah, let's got Christopher Lloyd in. I'm sure he'll save our movie. Yeah, no, that doesn't quite work like that at all. While it was a brilliant cameo and indeed one of the better scenes of the movie, all it is ultimately is just 20 seconds or so from nearly 2 hours. Yeah. Um, and third, Back to the Future is actually not really my favorite either. I don't know if that's because it's a western, but it's just not. So I guess that there's that as well. But yeah, having a cameo was was a I honestly surprised he accepted it. I don't know if he's desperate for money or something, but yeah. Apparently there were many cameos. Um, yeah. Many I don't even know about though. So yeah. Maha is totally yeah, in his case, not so much wasted as just absolutely idiotic script. I mean, was it supposed to be funny? Um, yeah. No, I don't know how these things happen, honestly. How did this make double its budget? I just have no idea. Like, most scenes were completely idiotic, mostly, anyway. Like even the barn dance when it was supposed to be, if not funny, then I mean, all right, they tried to be funny with the lyrics, but you know, I mean, it was a dance stuff, so it could have been enjoyable at least. But nope, it was boring. Somehow they made it boring. Yeah. Um, the whole thing was unbelievable. Just totally wasted opportunity. And I do normally like parodies, and I'm sure I'll watch a Western comedy at some point, Western parody that I'd like possibly, but it's not this. It's just yeah, so much idiocy. Um, it's only the last 20 minutes or so that were any good. But really, you cannot have a movie where only the last 20 minutes are interesting. I'm sure if I mean, people, if I was one of those people who turns off a movie when they're bored of it, then I would have missed 20 minutes. But as it happens, I don't do that. So yeah, it was seriously idiotic, and honestly, it doesn't paint a good picture for his animated series. I mean, if that's his comedy, his type of comedy, the extent of his funniness, you know, I mean, I'll probably give them a try at some point, but I honestly have no expectations at this point. I don't know what he was thinking. Somehow it's funny, somehow. And yeah, one thing I haven't mentioned still is only like the second worst thing, because I mean the first is this ridiculous attempt at humor. Somehow he thinks disgusting things are funny. The second worst thing though is the attempt at romance. Like seriously, who cares? Was he really supposed to be a good romantic lead? I don't get it. He was so pathetic. Honestly, he must have thought he was really some sort of. I mean, alright, he painted himself as someone cowardly, sure enough. So it's not like, he is pathetic to the extent that, like, for example, yes, the actual Clint Eastwood, is often, and oh, look at me, I'm an action hero, so old, and yet I still am, wahaha. That is pathetic, but another sort of pathetic. This guy admits he's pathetic, but I mean, he tries to be funny pathetic, and yet doesn't succeed at all. He just remains pathetic. That's the problem. Like he is really pathetic, but he's not funny. That's a great problem. It's when he has this faces, just it's not you know maybe he's not a good actor. I'm not sure though. I don't know why though he thought to put so much of an attempt at romance in there. Like seriously. Um, and I know many people didn't think much of you know Amanda Friedman's other movie, Red Riding Hood, that I also commented on. But the romance there, as much as romance goes, I very much prefer it. I mean, it's obviously supernatural, but I very much prefer that. What was this? This was so idiotic. Uh, whatever. I mean, it just doesn't seem like he really works at either. I mean, very much. I mean, yeah, since Ted 2, he didn't do much else. So I don't know. Maybe he got the message. I don't know what message. I couldn't have got any message considering these movies were so profitable. But yeah, he doesn't seem to be very good at either comedy or romance, really. But mainly it's the comedy that's really, really, really not so good. As I said, there were bits, but only bits. Like the scene in the pub when he just said, let's take our position, and they just simulated fight, fighting. That was passable comedy. No, I mean, extremely funny or anything, but yeah. Um, and even the trip at the end, I'm assuming that's where most of the CGI went. Even that, though, I mean, wasn't funny per se, but it was pretty cool. This is the problem with this movie. It just doesn't work as a comedy. And I don't know, maybe it works as some sort of western, but it doesn't. I honestly don't care about those at all. I've watched very few overall. They tend to be some of the worst movies in my opinion. Very repetitive, and yeah. But this though, I mean, with regards to its attempt at humor, is just so bizarre. Uh, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just the time when he just meets Indians and such. That's the only interesting bit. Other than that, there's not really anything at all else. And Liam Neeson is totally unfunny as well. Um, I don't know how most of these actors even accepted these parts. Apparently, there was just Reese Witherspoon who declined and rebuked his potential role. No one else did, though. And somehow Charlize Theron begged for her part. Like seriously? So she wanted to act in a comedy. I mean, surely she could have acted in some better comedy. How is this a comedy? Yeah. I first seen Theron in Aeon Flux. There are some movies which seriously devalue the opinion of certain actors, like say a certain what's he called? Never mind. But yeah, I very much more preferred her in Aeon Flux. Maybe sure enough, maybe it's because I much prefer sci-fi over. Yeah, they're like opposite ends of the spectrum, really. But everything that happened in Aeon Flux was brilliant. The way she acted was brilliant. And this, what was she supposed to? Was it really supposed to to have been convincing that she's somehow in love with this guy who tries to act pathetically funny and fails? Like, really? And she's supposed to have really been in love with him? In Aeon Flux, she does have another romantic relationship, and it definitely is more believable. Of course, the story itself makes it much more fantastic. It's sci-fi, but I don't know. I cannot believe she begged for this role. Maybe she needed money. I don't know what else I can think of. Honestly, at least Doc wasn't there for very long, just a few seconds. So maybe his career is salvaged.